Does the topic, title, and style of your video impact how many sales that you're getting from YouTube? Well, the answer is yes, dramatically. And now, for the first time ever, I have the data to prove it after tracking sales from 1 billion YouTube views. So in this video, I'm going to show you the patterns we found in this data that are increasing channel sales. I'm going to show you the title formats that are making YouTube channels the most money. You're going to see if the style of video you're making right now is actually costing you sales. And I'm going to show you exactly what the top channels are doing from everyone else to make millions. And at the end, I'm going to show you why using emojis in your title might actually increase your income. Okay, so before we get into the data, let me just quickly show you where it's all come from, because you're probably wondering, how has he tracked sales from 1 billion views? It sounds like internet marketing nonsense. Well, this is RevTrack. It's a software we built at the start of 2025, and it tracks individual sales, views, and leads from YouTube and other platforms too. So what you can see on screen right now is my channel's RevTrack dashboard. And now you can see each row here is one of my videos. And next to it, you can see exactly how many emails and link clicks and calls and sales and income it generated. Now we get that data by adding unique tracking links under every video we make. So you can see the links below this one. They're being tracked. And now we've got tons of people using this. We get all of the data from everything, meaning we have a bird's eye view across hundreds of niches showing us the patterns and trends and things that actually matter to make you money on YouTube. Okay, so now you know it's from, I'm going to give you the top things we've discovered from this data. And I think when you see how much titles impact your content, you're going to be pretty blown away. Okay, so let's start with the first thing. And this generally shocked me because it's the single most damaging thing to your business if you don't fix it. So here's what the data has showed. It turns out most channels have just got a handful of videos making them money, and the rest of their channel barely converts anything at all. In other words, like 80 or 90% of their content doesn't turn their viewers into buyers. So what we want to do is create a channel where every video you post can generate sales. So how can you achieve that? Well, let me show you how I use this data to get that result. So what you can see is I do have some videos that are massive sales outliers, but overall, pretty much every video I've made in the last year has grown my business. And that is because I just started ideating from RevTrack, not YouTube. So when I noticed a video was making sales, I just made more of them. Very similar title, very similar style, very similar thing. And that's it. That way of thinking doubled my turnover last year. So the lesson from this really is people just need to repeat what makes them money and not worry too much about anything else. Now, the second discovery, probably the easiest way to make money. And I noticed that when I dug into the data set, the highest earning creators were harnessing this strategy and the lowest were not. So here's how this works. So this video made $80,000 from 20,000 views. That is almost $4 a view. The thing is, try and find that video on YouTube somewhere. You can't, because it's unlisted. In fact, you can't find it anywhere other than here on my channel trailer. But why is this making me money? Well, this video is a VSL, which is basically a promo video, and it's the exact same one I have on my sales page. Now, this isn't just a fluke. Over 2025, I had 2 different videos that I tested here, and they both consistently drove around $4 per view. But also, the calls that came from them converted at a higher percentage too. So if you have a promo video or VSL, and you're like, I don't want to post it on my channel in case people hate on me, don't post it. Just unlist it, whack it as a trailer and point end screens at it, and thank me later. Now, the next massive discovery is going to make a lot of people gasp when they realize they are making the least profitable video over and over again. So what we discovered across tracking sales from 1 billion views was 6 categories of titles that actually seem to make money. And some of them make significantly more money than others. So let's start with the title style that was the least effective for sales and work up to the best. So the least powerful title for sales across YouTube last year are sadly one of the most common, and they are known as listicles. These are basically videos that are like 3 steps to clean your shoes better, or 5 lessons I wish I knew, or 10 mistakes that do something bad. Basically, a listicle is just a list of lessons that have no specific order to them, and they are associated with 15% of videos that got sales, ranking them at the very bottom. Now, when I saw this, I was pretty shocked, and I wanted to know why. And when I thought about it, I think I figured it out. So recently, I have been trying to better understand how people learn so I can make better content for you. So I decided, well, maybe I need to start learning completely new things I'm bad at. And one of those things was DJing. And this is where it clicked. Because as a total beginner, whenever I went on YouTube to learn about it, I found I never clicked on the videos that looked like a proper step-by-step tutorial or a mini course. I was clicking on the stuff that felt like it was going to be really easy to watch, that I could just dip in and out of and have on the background whilst I was eating my dinner. Basically, I didn't want to think too hard. So I was clicking on 5 looping mistakes that ruin your mix and 3 things I wish I knew before I started mixing. But after about 2 or 3 weeks of this, I finally went, right, why don't you just try a bit harder to learn this properly now? And I started looking for more structured lessons and more depth. And that is when I decided to start spending money on a lesson. So I think the reason that listicles don't convert is because they actually attract viewers with the wrong intent. These videos can get massive views, but I think people watch listicles when they're killing time, when they're half distracted, when they're on the loo, when they are looking for a tiny tip, and they're not really trying to mentally commit. And that is not what you want for sales. All right, now the second type of title was associated with 20% of sales across this entire data set, and we call these pain first titles, and they look like this. Now, one thing to note about these titles are, what I noticed was, across some niches, they actually seem to perform better than others. So if you are in the health or wellness or relationship space, these specific problem-based titles actually seem to crush it for views and sales, but in other ones it wasn't so strong. Now, the link below in the document is going to give you more titles of each of these categories and a full report, so make sure you get that if you're a big data nerd like me. Okay, next up is our third category, and this one is associated with 25% of all sales, and these are called contrarian titles, and you can see a few examples on screen right now. Now, these titles basically interrupt your viewers' autopilot thinking to make them go, what? Why? What's wrong with that? So they click to find out. And I think this is powerful for sales because this harnesses a copywriting technique people have been using for the last 50,000 years, pre-pen, where you basically say the old way doesn't work anymore and the new way does, and it hooks people, it makes them think you're some sort of genius, and then they want to buy from you. So that brings us on to the fourth title category, and this one was associated with 35% of sales. And these are titles like what I learned after failing something, how I fixed my relationship with something. But I've got a few things you're going to want to know about these before you start making them. So the reason these ones work for sales is because they position the creator as having fixed the problem the viewer has. So it kind of raises your credibility when they see it because the viewer goes, oh, I want to fix that too. The thing is, what I've noticed was, and this wasn't from the data, but this was from working with almost 600 businesses this year, is that pretty consistently, when smaller channels make this style of title, they flop. Whereas where bigger ones do it, they don't. And I think it's because the larger channels have a following that is interested in I more, whereas the smaller ones don't. So just keep that in mind. Now, the second most powerful title category for sales, about 40% of the highest converting videos use this, and I call it a system or method title. Now, the reason these things make so much money is because you say you have a system to solve something your viewer cares about, and then if the video actually gives them a good system, it shows them you're credible and they buy. That's it in its simplest form. And what I found was these titles worked across almost every niche that I have worked with over the last 12 months too. Which brings us on to the big dog. This is the category that showed up in 55% of all titles that produce the most sales, and I call them outcome titles. And you can see a few examples on screen right now. All you do is you lead with the result someone will get if they watch your video. Something like, this editing system will save you 4 hours per edit, or get your first 10 clients with this cheeky little script. And I think these do well for sales because they just cut through all of the BS and they just say, this is going to get you a very specific transformation you actually care about. And if the video delivers on that, they buy. So those are the title categories responsible for the most sales. If you want to maximize revenue, you need to make sure your title hits on at least 2 of them at once. The top 2 combined, these are the most likely to make sales. But here's the thing, that's only the start of what matters with titles. All right, so we're going to come back to titles again in a minute when we look at what emojis appear to be doing. But this next lesson is a really big one. So listen up, because I think it's going to make you 5 times more maybe. So we can see the amount of views to the amount of clicks people are getting on their new releases. And what we noticed was the click-through rate on a link below your video was only 0.2%. So if you get 1,000 views, it's like 2 clicks. But at the top end of the spectrum, the big channels, the ones earning all the money, we're seeing percentages of 10, 14%. And the top performing channels generally don't dip below 1%, which is 5 times more. So now the reason this is so important is, let's say you're making $1,000 a month from YouTube and you're getting 0.2% click-through rate on your link. If you got that to 2%, which is actually achievable, your income shoots up to $10,000 from that one simple change. So you need to take this seriously, but how do you do that? Well, what you want to do is this. Firstly, if you look at the big channels smashing it, their links are always visible above the fold in the description. So look below this video right now. That link, look at it. You can click it straight away. I have nothing else in there. But also the calls to action to the links are very short. So if you've got a long ass sentence or a paragraph trying to explain people why they should click, get it down to a few words. Honestly, writing Work With Me worked better than most. And that's kind of it. Which brings me on to the lesson I learned that proved me wrong about something. And it sums up how YouTube actually works to grow a business perfectly. Emojis. So for years, I have told people, do not use emojis in your thumbnails or title because a big, bright, yellow smiling blob, it pulls the eye away from what actually matters in your text and in your image. But when I was digging around through this data set, I spotted a little anomaly. And we found that a few high-performing videos for sales had emojis in their title. So what does that tell us? Well, this is the real lesson about YouTube and about every single lesson that I've just given you. And it is this. Everything I've just told you is incredibly valuable and completely useless at the exact same time. Because at the end of the day, YouTube isn't about platform-wide best practices. It's about understanding the type of viewer you attract and what they love, and then just giving them that over and over again, even if the trends say different. And there are so many different viewer types now. Some love vague, curiosity-driven titles. Some want ultra-specific details. Some love storytelling. Some love blunt, direct, tactical titles. Some respond to emojis, and some hate them. And the only way you're going to figure this out for yourself is to experiment and then find the pattern that works for your audience and then just repeat that until it stops working. So everything I've just said, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. This is not the YouTube Bible. This is just some interesting data you might want to play with. And if you're thinking, well, I still don't really understand how this tracking game works, watch this video next and I'll show you how I use this data to double my business over the last year, and in particular, how it helped me generate $1.2 million in 3 months. Pure insanity. And if you want the report, click the link below. I'll send it to you.